So, how do you take a totally useless piece of land and turn it into like a high performance engine for a startup? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. We're looking at a project that transformed a patch of ground that was basically worthless into an absolute powerhouse.
Okay, so first things first, you've got to understand the problem we're dealing with here. And yeah, that is not rich, loamy earth. The source material is, well, brutally honest about it. It calls this a tiny slab of compacted anaerobic Lincoln clay. Basically, unbaked brick. It's hard, it's lifeless, and it pretty much fights you every step of the way if you try to grow anything in it.
And this isn't just any bad patch of dirt. No, this specific piece of land actually has a reputation. It's literally known as a graveyard for dreams. I mean, can you believe that? So that's our starting point. Not just bad soil, but soil so difficult that it has crushed the hopes of gardeners time and time again. The stakes? Yeah, they couldn't be clearer. And this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the problem, that dead slab of clay. And on the other, the goal, the whole reason for doing this, funding a woodworking startup called the Knot&Chisel. So you see, this is no hobby project. This is a financial necessity. All right, so let's get into it. The heart of this story is all about how you tackle this slab of brick, understanding the huge challenge and the super critical purpose it just has to serve. And the mission is incredibly specific. This dead space has to be transformed into a high-octane tea garden. Why? Well, to make money. Simple as that. It needs to produce something marketable that can pay the bills for the woodworking workshop. Every single leaf that gets harvested has to pull its weight and contribute to the bottom line. Now, when you're facing a problem this extreme, you know a conventional approach is just not going to cut it. And that brings us to this really radical shift in philosophy. This isn't really about gardening. It's about hacking the biology of the ground itself. And this quote right here, this is the key. This changes everything. We're not just throwing some compost on top and hoping for the best. No way. This is about engineering a living system underground. It's a subterranean bioreactor designed to completely change that clay from the inside out. So, how do you actually build this thing, this subterranean engine? Let's break down how they built the core system that powers this whole garden. Okay, it comes down to 4 key steps. First, you dig down 3 feet to create what they call the engine room. Then you lay down a mini hugelkultur base, which is basically buried wood that acts like a sponge. Third, you stick a central compost tower right in the middle. And finally, you charge that tower with some serious biological fuel. So what is this fuel? Well, they call it the Lincoln cocktail, and you can basically think of it as a biological crowbar. It's this super concentrated mix of local microbes, all foraged from right there in the landscape. And it has one mission and one mission only, to declare war on that compacted clay. And the ingredients in this cocktail are no joke. We're talking about microbes from pond silt, all kinds of fungi from native leaf mold, and get this, a secret weapon, mycelium from the bases of Boleta sedulis mushrooms, that's porcini. Then you activate the whole thing with a cow manure tea primer. It's this potent, living slurry designed to just kickstart the entire system into high gear. Okay, so the engine's built, it's fueled up, now it's time to bring in the troops. We need to assemble the living components that will actually operate in this new ecosystem. And this is where the wild guard comes in. And the choice of plants here is super strategic. You can't just use standard nursery plants. They're pampered, they're weak. They would hit that heavy clay and harsh wind and just give up. So what's the solution? You use wild foraged plants. You go for genetics that are already battle-hardened, already proven to be tough enough to survive in this exact landscape. And check out the roster for this tea garden. You've got warriors like apple mint, woolly mint, lemon balm, and even pineapple weed, all of them sourced directly from the wild. And these aren't just survivors, right? They were specifically picked to thrive, to dominate this tough environment and produce really intense, flavorful tea. But wait a second, how does all that good stuff from the compost tower actually get to the plants through all that dense clay? Well, you have to meet the logistics team. Red wiggler worms. These guys are the transport system. They're constantly creating new tunnels, carrying that rich compost tea from the core deep into the root zones. And in the process, they're literally breaking up the soil as they go. Unsung heroes, right? All right, so now let's talk about the payoff, because this is where it all comes together. This isn't just a garden. It's one half of a totally self-sustaining system, and it's directly connected to the startup it was built to fund. And here's the genius part. It's a closed loop. The waste from the woodworking, sawdust and shavings, that provides the carbon for the garden's compost. The garden then produces this amazing artisanal tea, which is sold to pay the workshop's bills. I mean, even the air is shared, seasoning the wood and curing the tea leaves at the same time. It's a beautiful system.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? An artisanal ecosystem. The craft of woodworking and the crop from the garden, they aren't two separate things. They're completely fundamentally inseparable. One literally can't exist without the other. It's incredible. And this all circles right back to the brand itself. The Knot&Chisel's whole philosophy is born in the wind, tempered by fire. And this garden, it's a living, breathing example of that idea. It's about taking something raw and incredibly difficult, and through sheer ingenuity and resilience, turning it into something beautiful and valuable. So the big takeaway here is the transformation. We're talking about a timeline of just a few weeks. It went from a hopeless, compacted brick pit to a thriving biological engine. The clay's actually starting to crumble, the worms are totally winning, and the tea? It's apparently world-class. This whole project leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. The principles we've seen here, hacking the biology of a system, they can be applied almost anywhere. So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What dead space in your world, in your life, is just waiting for a creative, biological hack to bring it roaring